What am I doing? Oh, yeah.
Should we do a podcast?
What are we doing? Whose podcast is this? Oh, it's mine.
Yesterday is a memory. Today is history. Tomorrow is in the hands of one man.
Bond. You know the rest.
Tomorrow never dies. Now shooting around the world.
Hello, Tailoring Talkers. It's time for the Bondathon. For those of you joining us for the first time, my friends and I are watching the entire James Bond movie series from beginning to end, one movie, 1 month at a time. Some of us have seen them all. Some of us are seeing some of these movies for the very first time. We deep dive into each film, covering everything from our overall review to the plot, close, gadgets, cast, behind-the-scenes stories, and our favourite moments. If you haven't already, please help the show by subscribing and leaving us a rating and a review. Step back into the Tailoring Talk time machine as we head to 1997. I can't believe it's that long ago. After the success of GoldenEye making MGM super attractive to potential buyers, and following the repurchase of the studio by billionaire Kirk Kerkorian, it was decided that Bond 18 would be the first important release under the new ownership. Yes, it's time for Tomorrow Never Dies. First in our mission briefing is the man whose tech expertise ensures that for us, just like for Bond, tomorrow never dies. As an IT teacher and avid gamer, he's our go-to when it comes to outsmarting digital foes and cracking codes. In a world where technology rules, John Evans is our key to making sure tomorrow is always within reach. John, how are you?
I'm really well. At the same time, I am about this day old when I realised that Tomorrow Never Dies literally refers to the newspaper in the film. I didn't realise that until I rewatched it this episode. And I feel like I've spent, nearly 50 years being stupid. But otherwise, I'm really good.
Good. Actually, now that you mention it, there's a lot about this film that I realised I was only realising for the first time. I think it was probably the first time I watched it actually paying attention to the plot and the dialogue and everything that was actually going on. Because this is just one film full of set piece after set piece after set piece, but we'll get into that soon. We are also joined by I can't find my freaking intro. I worked so hard to change the intros this episode and I fucked it up already. Next, it's the gadget guru with a heart of gold. In a Bond universe where tomorrow never dies, he's the man ensuring our gadgets are always one step ahead of the game. His insights bring clarity and foresight, much like Q provides the tools to ensure Bond's tomorrow is never in doubt. Welcome back, Alex Hansford. Alex, my friend, how are you?
I'm very well. Good evening, all.
You both seemed a little stunned after those intros. I changed it up.
I feel like the standards really increased. I'm just surprised.
Good. And then I'd written an amazing intro for Mark, but he's not here. Should I read it anyway?
Yeah, go on.
Go on then. So it was meant to be, rounding off our team is the man who reminds us that in a world where tomorrow never dies, sometimes the simplest methods are the most effective. He may not be the tech wizard, but in a Bond story, he's the character who proves you don't need the latest gadget to make a difference. For him, it's all about using what you've got to ensure a brighter tomorrow. For the second time on the Bondathon, except it's not, It's Mark Holmes. Mark, how are you? Oh, all right, Bobby. I'm all right. Yeah, yeah. What are we doing here again?
I,
Is it Brosnan?
I'm,
John was trying to say something clever there and he broke up because his internet is absolute shite today. Can't hear you, John.
I will from connection. Talking just I engaged the internet gadget. It's very frustrating.
Yeah, we just got internet gadget out of all of that. So anyway, moving on. In the edit, we'll realise what you said, and I string it all together. Right. Okay. Let's get into this. Before we get started, we need to get our spoiler alert in. We will be spoiling the living daylights out of this movie. So if you haven't seen Tomorrow Never Dies, where the hell have you been for the last 26 odd years? Hit pause, go see the movie, and rejoin us after. So 1997. It's really funny with this film because it had kind of average reviews. It's got John's just disappeared. It was kind of like around about a 57-60%. John's coming back in now. On Rotten Tomatoes, and it was generally like a 2 to 3.5 out of 5 with most critics, which is kind of weird watching it now because I won't spoil it for the end of the episode. John, I was just saying to Alex that when this film came out, the reviews were very, very average, like really middling. The film grossed $333 million from a budget of 110. It was 20 mil short of GoldenEye, but then it was competing with another film this year. Do either of you know what that film was, or can you remember what that film was? 1997.
An Arnie film.
Oh, what? No, it wasn't an Arnie film. But weirdly, Roger Spottiswoode, who directed this film, did direct an Arnie film. Can you guess which one?
Oh,
and then we'll go back to the first question.
And then we'll go back to the first question.
Commando.
This is no Commando. No, The Sixth Day. And then what was the first question I asked?
Oh
yeah.
Hold me,
film?
Jack. Hold me.
What film? Yes, that's it.
Titanic.
Alex has got it. Titanic.
It was Titanic.
It was
See, the
Titanic.
trouble is my internet at the moment is too slow to be able to get ahead of you with the answers like Alex can. So
Yeah.
I'm going to have to use my real brain rather than the hive mind that is the internet.
So this is also the first Bond movie where the title has got no reference whatsoever to any of Fleming's previous works. Tomorrow Never Dies was actually an accident because one of the muted titles was actually Tomorrow Never Lies. Tomorrow Never Dies was never, ever on the possible names for this Bond film sheet that was faxed to the studio.
That makes way more sense. Tomorrow Never Lies with the whole theme of the newspaper called Tomorrow.
Yeah, that's it. So Tomorrow Never Lies is what went on the fax, but it was mistyped as Tomorrow Never Dies, and the studio liked it so much they said that's what we want as the title of the film. They went into production because they were on a very tight deadline. They were given a hard stop release date of, I think it was the 12th of December 1997, and that was not movable. So they basically were on a very, very tight schedule, and they actually started shooting without a proper working script, which, funny enough, also happened with Quantum of Solace. But this is a much better movie. I think I can say that now.
I think the script problems, Bobby, is why Anthony Hopkins, who was signed on to be Carver, gave up in the end and left the set.
Really, I just heard that he decided to do Zorro with Martin Campbell, who directed GoldenEye.
Well, he walked after a couple of days because it was chaos on set and there was no shooting script, no completed script. So you're right. He did appear in The Mask of Zorro. That was a year later in 1998. But it's a shame because I think he would have been better than Jonathan Pryce, who is a great actor. But I have my issues with him as a bad guy in this film. I love the film. We'll talk about it later on how much we loved it. But we'll talk about Jonathan Pryce later on. I think when we come to our characters.
So Roger Spottiswoode, I don't really know his work, so I looked up, and he did Air America, which I think was a Mel
Good film.
Gibson movie.
Good film.
I've never seen it. I know a lot of movies from the posters and the trailers from the 80s and 90s, but hadn't seen a lot of them. I got a feeling he did Stop or My Mum Will Shoot. I have seen that film. But yeah, but he originally had approached the producers to direct Goldeneye when what's his face, Timothy Dalton was still attached to the role. And then they went with Martin Campbell for the reboot. And then Martin Campbell jumped ship. He didn't want to do 2 Bond films in a row because he was knackered, and also he was doing Zorro anyway. So Roger Spottiswoode got the job, and I think he did a really, really good job with this film. Like really, really good. We'll get into that in a bit.
Yeah.
Filming, they couldn't do it so you remember from the last movie, they found that sort of abandoned warehouse thing and then ended up creating a movie studio out of it, and that is what we know as Leavesden. And they couldn't film at Leavesden this time because another film had just been given that lot. Do you know what film it was? And it will be something tied to a saga that is close to all of our hearts.
Either got to be Star Wars or it's got to be. See, my first thought was Star Wars.
Yeah. So George Lucas had been given Leavesden for the Phantom Menace.
So they used it for the green screen work, did they?
I have no idea. I didn't read that far.
Because most of the Phantom Menace was green screens, wasn't it? So if you look at some of the set dressings there, it was pretty much all green screens.
Yeah, it was just George Lucas at home on an Atari ST, cans of Diet Coke lined up.
Inner Gareth Edwards doing it all himself.
Exactly. Yeah, that's it. So yeah, there we go.
So it was filmed at Pinewood and Elstree, wasn't it?
Ironically.
Yeah.
So back at Pinewood.
Yeah, but they also found an abandoned supermarket and sort of turned that into a filming thing as well. Cast and crew. So Brosnan returns. When you watch archive footage from interviews of him, you can kind of see how passionate he is about the role and how he's really taken ownership of it. And there's some cast stories I'll share in a few moments where he maybe kind of got a bit too passionate about it. But he was Bond as far as he was concerned, and it really shows in this film. I mean, I think he did a really accomplished job in Goldeneye anyway. He didn't kind of look nervy in the role or anything. I mean, he looked like he was born to play Bond, but this one, I think, is where he really makes it his own.
He's a very beautiful man, isn't he, Pierce Brosnan? Don't you think?
Man, he's so handsome, and hasn't he aged? He's aged so well.
Yeah.
Like, he looks so good. Like, in Fire Saga, the Eurovision movie with Will Ferrell and Rachel McAdams. I love it.
It's a great film.
So much. She was.
He's got like this. He's got this sort of distinguished look to him that just doesn't age. It's really nice.
Yeah.
I mean, the best bit is he's not perfect. I love his flaws. I mean, he can't sing for Toffee in Mamma Mia, and that makes me love him even more.
Yeah, totally. But he did do. I thought his accent in the Eurovision movie was really good. Anyway, so very happy about him coming back. And then the villain played by Jonathan Pryce, and I thought he did a pretty good job. I mean, it was a bit cartoony, but also, I don't know, the things he does in this film, though, are so loathsome, like so horrific, really. Killing people, killing innocent people, just so that you can manipulate the news and the media and manipulate people. And it's horrible. It really is.
Bobby, did you not think, though, that of all the Bond films we've seen so far, this one feels the most topical in its material in some respects?
Yeah, very. And again, critics at the time kind of thought it was a little bit far-fetched, whereas critics now, where I've read modern day reviews where they've kind of revisited the film, they're sort of like, oh, actually, anyone who can't make any parallels between what they were trying to say at that time and what has been going on the last sort of 6 or 7 years has got to be absolutely freaking nuts. Well, the character of Elliot Carver was actually based on Robert Maxwell. Hence, M's very pointed telling them to say that, you know, he died having fallen overboard from his yacht or whatever. The very, very definite reference to Robert Maxwell. But yeah, he was loathsome, and I guess that's kind of, is that what you want in a Bond villain, or was it a bit too far? Because I really was, I mean, I had my hand over my mouth at a lot of the stuff that was going on. And I really did find it, I don't know if it's me getting older and maturing, maybe, I don't know what it is, but I just, you know, like where those sailors are in the water and then he has them all completely murdered in cold blood. I mean, the actual submarine that they freaking sink in the first place, or the ship, sorry, that they sink in the first place just to steal a nuclear warhead and for the headlines and everything, absolutely freaking horrible.
The HMS, was it the Devonshire? The HMS Devonshire?
The Devonshire, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I just, and then, you know,
that scene,
I just found it awful.
Is it a 12, this film? I think it's a 12, isn't it?
Yeah, it was.
And that scene there where you see the officers and the, you know, the soldiers, the Navy guys' bodies floating up into the ice. I thought that was quite, even now, I found that quite disturbing. And I thought to myself, actually, was it a 15 when it was first released? And maybe they brought it down to a 12. That was struck me as being 15 when it came out in my time. I think it feels like it would have been.
So it's a 12, but it was quite heavily cut. So it may have been that the version that you're seeing now is gorier than what we would have seen at release.
Right, maybe.
So you're right. There are some bits. I think part of it is because some of the narrative hits home more than perhaps it did at the time. So at the time, it probably felt quite abstract and feel like it was like that was going to happen.
I mean, there are other things in the film that will give it a 12 rating as well. I'm pointing to one of those things, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, right, yes.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the plot of the film, I should have mentioned earlier, follows Bond. For anyone who hasn't seen it, I don't know why you're listening to this. It follows Bond as he attempts to intercept Elliot Carver, played by Jonathan Pryce, a power-mad media mogul, from engineering world events to initiate World War III. I mean, there are elements in what goes on that we've seen in Bond films previous, you know, the destroying of a military ship in order to steal a warhead, etc., etc. But still, I mean, the way that he goes about his business, it was quite hard for me to stomach. Bond, while we're on cast, let's stick with it. So Samantha Bond returns as Moneypenny. Again, my favorite Moneypenny of them all. I love her so much. And obviously Judi Dench as M. Colin Salmon, a very young Colin Salmon, is what's
amazing
his face?
Voice.
Tanner, I think.
Amazing voice, isn't he?
Oh,
Colin
yeah,
Salmon.
very. He was really good in Resident Evil, the first one.
He plays Charles Robinson in this. Charles Robinson is his character.
Okay. And then we've got the Bond girls. We've got Terry Hatcher as Paris, and what's her face from Crouching
Michelle Yeoh.
Michelle Yeoh.
As
what's her face?
Is it Wei Lin?
Yes,
Wei Lin. I got it right. Yes, the Chinese. She's a Chinese agent.
Do you not think that at the time, giving her the name of a damsel in distress, as in wailing for help, was a little bit derogatory for her character, because her character is a proper kick-ass, strong female character in this film.
She was written as a strong kick-ass female. She was always intended to be.
Why call her wailing then?
I don't know. I think you're maybe reading too much into it.
Yeah, maybe I am.
Yeah. So let's talk about the Bond girls, because John wrote a sort of digital note and emailed it to us in our Discord, or messaged it. I don't know what you do in the Discord. I sound really old.
Such an old man.
We talk a lot in there. It's nice. It helps me to stay connected to my friends. I don't get to see them the flesh very often. I'm getting sentimental now. So John, let's start with you. So Terry Hatcher doesn't do it for you.
It's really weird because I spent many, many years of my youth absolutely lusting over her in the Adventure of Lois and Clark.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which we've all seen. And dear listeners, we are men of a certain age. This is like a box you tick when you reach a certain age. We all were in love with Terry Hatcher, but she didn't do anything for me in this film whatsoever. I don't know what it is. I don't know why. I mean, I'm looking over Bobby's shoulder at the poster art behind him because we've all got Tomorrow Never Dies themes, and she's a fine-looking woman, but I just didn't get any kind of sex appeal from her at all. And I know, we're three men talking about Bond podcast, and this is a very one-sided, point of view. But obviously, the Bond girl is designed to titillate in at the time it came out, and part of the plot, and just bums on seats. It's really weird. I was much more enamored with Michelle Yeoh at the time. Yeah. Just I don't know what it is. It's just this is maybe it's just me, but
yeah.
I felt really bad for Terry Hatcher because she was Lois, wasn't she? And I wonder if it's just because of her age or her character in the film. I don't know. What do you think, chaps?
I don't think that the character helped, because I think there was an element of like I don't know, like suppressed wife of media mogul that didn't really play very well with Terry Hatcher. I just don't think it really resonated. And then the history that was put in between Bond and them, again, it felt really abstract. So I don't think the character play was very good. And I kind of feel like that was a real big flaw. But because she was such a big name at the time, I think they kind of got her. Getting her in was a big coup at the time. And I just feel like I think if they'd have worked better at the story rather than just, and this is partly why, if the script wasn't finished, this is kind of shows the reasons for it. But yeah, so I just didn't feel like it was really genuine enough.
Did you feel sad about her dying, Alex?
No, not really.
No.
I kind of it really had vibes of Goldfinger, where the woman, I can't remember the name now, is covered in gold, and you kind of oh well, and it was sad. But
whereas,
I
was gutted when Felix's wife was killed, his brand new wife on her wedding day.
Yes.
Now again, a character we hardly ever knew about, but that was so much more affecting than this, and it's just strange.
Yes, yeah, there was so much more emotion behind it, and I feel like that it didn't work. I mean, I just don't feel like they had chemistry either, which didn't help. But I just there were lots of reasons why it didn't work, but I don't know what they could have done. I mean, I've just felt like maybe the story being half baked just didn't help them at all. Maybe that would have made her a better character if they'd have had time to finesse that.
Yeah.
Instead, it just felt half baked, like I said.
I mean, Terry Hatcher, come off the success of Lois and Clark, so and obviously Desperate Housewives. Don't forget, which I can't remember if that was after or before.
I think it was after.
Was it after?
I think so.
She's going to be 60 next year. But anyway, she was brilliant in Tango and Cash. Remember, she was Kurt Russell's sister. No, she was Sylvester Stallone's sister in Tango and Cash. I love that movie. So basically, Celia Ward, who had previously done before this The Fugitive, she auditioned for the role. And the producers wanted her, but they said they wanted her 10 years younger. So she was 39, Terry Hatcher's 32. And so they cast her in the role of Paris. But she later regretted playing that role. So quote from her, she said, "It's such an artificial kind of character to be playing that you don't get any special satisfaction from it." And then
but
there was
she didn't like the character.
No, I mean, apparently Brosnan was screen tested with Monica Bellucci, first of all.
Oh my God, can you imagine?
But the producers said no, and Brosnan Brosnan said they were idiots as well.
Oh, there you go.
So yeah, and then Terry Hatcher was 3 months pregnant when shooting started, and she was late to set once or twice, and Brosnan wasn't happy about that because he obviously was very passionate about the whole project and everything, and so apparently he was quite rude to her. And then he had to apologize later when he found out that she was actually pregnant, and that was the reason why she was late sometimes for her set call and stuff. So I think probably a lot of those things have added to some of the things that you guys are feeling about it.
Yeah, maybe.
But Michelle Yeoh as Wei, I mean, flipping hell, they wanted
She's
someone.
great.
They wanted someone who was as tough as Bond and was kind of like the flip side to him, and she was that and much more. Do you know what? I think she's kind of up there in kick-ass Bond women. I think she goes my top 3 now.
Her and Diane.
Diana Rigg, and Anna de Armas.
Oh,
Anna de Armas. Oh my God!
and
Thank you for
She's not in No Time to Die for very long.
No,
criminally,
we'll have to wait for that one because
we haven't got to that yet.
Next July, people. No, I think it's
my tummy go
I don't know.
Anna de Armas makes my tummy go fizzy. Oh my God!
There you go. But yeah, Michelle Yeoh was fantastic.
She was.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. She wanted to do her own stunts, but the director said no because he was obviously worried about her safety, but there was a problem with insurance as well. Which is why Tom Cruise ended up starting his own production company, and the rest is history. So yeah, there we go. Natasha Henstridge, who we'll know as sci-fi geeks from Species, she was apparently cast in the lead Bond role, but eventually it went to Yeoh instead. So there we go. And Brosnan was very impressed with her. Described her as a wonderful actress, serious and committed about her work. So all was good.
I'm a big Michelle Yeoh fan, just so you know. I first saw her in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, which I love that film so much, and I've been following her since. So I'm a big fan of her stuff.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant. Stunts. Vic Armstrong leads the second unit, and Vic Armstrong is a long-established stalwart of the Bond franchise, and that stunt team, they outdid themselves on this movie. I mean, you had the halo jump, you had the motorbike jump over the helicopter. There was all the stunt driving that went on as well. The French guy, I can't remember his name, but he's the one that rode the motorbike. But yeah, the stunts and the action sequences in this film, for me, are among the best in the entire series.
I mean, the helicopter scene in the was that in Vietnam? I think it was in Vietnam. I mean, that's a precursor to the Mission Impossible movies. It felt very Mission Impossible, but in 1997, and it's hard to forget how much of an influence Bond has had on other films and its stunt scenes.
So I was watching the SFX reel for this movie. So actually it was set in Vietnam, that scene, but it was actually filmed in Bangkok because they couldn't get permission to film in Vietnam. The Vietnamese president or prime minister or whatever rescinded the original invitation for them to be able to film there. Would have been the first Western film filmed in Vietnam as well. But I was watching the SFX reel for this movie, and it's kind of the first Bond film to sort of use a reasonable amount of green screen. So the bits where they were diving underwater towards the Devonshire wreck, that was all green screen, two separate, and then composited over each other. The Elliot Carver building was green screen. So the poster down the side of it.
Yeah.
That was CGI.
Because the one where they fall down together as they rip through the paper, and then
so that was CGI. Yeah.
Wow.
That was CGI. The helicopter blades were put in afterwards. So that was CGI.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, there was so many other little green screen elements in this film, and I was getting kind of teary eyed because I was watching the SFX reel, and Carolina was sort of looking at me, and she's like, "Why are you getting so emotional over a behind the scenes thing?" And the reason why I was getting so emotional was 1997. I just started working for a technology company up in Wembley, near Brent Cross, and EON Productions called, and the other salespeople palmed it off to me as the youngest person because they were just like, they only ever buy like a couple computers. They all wanted big accounts that bought multiple machines, and so so I sat on the phone with this lady from EON, and she said, "We're just planning ahead to a future movie, and we need to build a few computers, but we need the most powerful everything that you can throw at it." And so I was like, oh, okay, cool. So, at that time, I think it was Pentium 3, maybe 4s had just come out at that time, and there was Xeons were available.
Bum, 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 bum.
Yep. So I spec'd up some pretty serious machinery for them, and they basically became my account. And it was all my computers that were used to do the SFX for the next movie that we're reviewing, The World Is Not Enough. This movie was the beginning of that. It was like the precursor.
Hold on. Is The World Is Not Enough the one with the snowboarding scene?
Christmas, yeah.
So yeah, it is.
It's your fault that the next film has the shonkiest CGI of all the Bond films.
I was going to say,
that's not my fault.
It is. It's your fault.
It's not
that's
my
also
fault.
the invisible Aston, isn't it?
It's his fault.
Yeah, it's all your fault.
Invisible Aston is the one after.
Were you still?
Die Another
was that
Day.
Still your account then?
Yeah, no. I reckon they were using your computers again for that next.
No, I'd left by then to embark on my tailoring career.
Ah, there we go.
You know what? This already gets an explicit rating, but fuck you and fuck you. I love you, but fuck you very much. Listen, okay. If Q makes the gadgets, right? If Bond doesn't know how to use them, it's not his fault, is it? See? Same thing.
Depends on his user manual. If his user manual was good, then you'd do a better job, wouldn't you? So how was your manual?
No one ever reads the manual, Alex. Right. Speaking of Q, gadgets and technology. Now,
go on, over to you, Alex.
I just want to say though, I love the relationship and the interplay between Brosnan and Llewellyn that started in GoldenEye. It's like, I know it's the age as well because it's swung around because, Llewellyn was quite young when he was with Connery and they were probably a similar sort of age. Whereas, he's like a father figure to Brosnan. But I just love the interplay between them. And we see Q pop up in Hamburg when Bond goes out there because
isn't he in an Avis jacket or something? Isn't he in a red rental?
He works for Avis now.
Yeah, he works for Avis. He's there to give Bond his new car, and I just so first of all we're going to skip a bit to close, but Brosnan dressed by Brioni again,
looking good.
He looks so good. That cashmere double-breasted coat.
He's got like a silk brown tie. He's got a waistcoat. I can see the cufflinks showing out of his jacket as well.
I am recreating that outfit for myself, ready for January. That is what I'm going to be wearing next month. I have decided because I always wanted it, but obviously I wasn't in the world, the income bracket, all the rest of it. Now I can actually make that shit. When I was watching it on Sunday night, I thought to myself, do you know what? That's my next project for myself. I'm finally going to make that coat for myself.
I think we understand each other, Q. Grow up, 007.
But yeah, it's the way Brosnan looks at him when he's talking to the Avis woman and he's signing and then Q pops up next to him, and it's the way he sort of just looks at him and looks at his red jacket. But then we get the introduction to his new car, the BMW 750i, and even though looks-wise, it's one of the most bland cars
Crap
in the
car,
entire Bond
great tech.
series.
Yeah.
It's my favourite. Alex, over to you.
Well, I think it's the main feature, isn't it? The main feature is that you can drive it from your mobile phone, and I think that's what makes it so cool. There are a few other bits like that were ahead of its time, like the assistant,
The taser.
That's it. Well, yeah, exactly. And the fact that the Ericsson phone just happens to have a taser in it, 20,000 volt taser in it. And that
The
was
battery in that thing must be amazing.
It's got some very big capacitors.
Was
that's an
Alex,
engineering joke.
was Sony involved in the making of this film?
Yeah.
Well, Sony didn't own Ericsson at that
Yeah,
time.
But
did
this
they?
is so they didn't own Ericsson. Oh no, they did. So it was Sony Ericsson.
No, Sony Ericsson. But I'm saying, were Sony involved in the making of the film? Because I know the later Bond films are Sony films, aren't they?
No, this wasn't Sony. This was still MGM.
I'm sure I've seen Bond with like the old Vio laptops in later films.
But they had a deal.
No, that was Casino Royale.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, later times, but yeah, I think this may be the first Ericsson phone that was on that Bond's had.
No, you two, you're so wrong.
Okay.
No, it was in 2011, 2012 that Sony acquired Ericsson. So Ericsson was still Ericsson at that time. It wasn't Sony Ericsson.
My sources
Sony's.
You're right.
Sony's.
You're right.
Yeah,
because I'm looking at a shot from the film showing the scanner where it scans. You can scan fingerprints.
Oh, it does show Ericsson. It wasn't badged as
Ericsson
Sony.
With the Ericsson 3 slanted dash logo. There's no Sony Ericsson there. You're right, Bobby. Sorry. I mean, you're the tech guy that sold computers to them in the first place, so it makes sense.
Yeah,
you should know.
And also, I had. Do you remember the film Eraser with Arnold Schwarzenegger and James Caan? Yeah. You know the Ericsson phone that he has in that film, Arnie? I had that phone. I mean, to be honest, at one point or another, I've owned pretty much every mobile phone of note that's existed in the last 30 years. I bet you had the Matrix
flip phone as well, didn't you? The Nokia flip phone. Yeah,
of course I did. Yeah.
I think a lot of people had that one. I feel like this particular one, with the way that it opened out, it had really vibes of the Nokia communicator.
Yeah.
Which I had next year. But that's actually a bit. The communicator was like around that time, but not actually at that time. It was 98. I think it was. But,
so, gadget roll call on the car.
There's quite a lot,
missile, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so we got
quite a bit.
We got. Let's go one each in order. So I'll start with. So we've got the phone, obviously, for it that remote controls it.
Yeah.
Alex.
Yeah. We've got. Oh God, where's my list gone?
Yeah.
John, come on, let's keep this moving.
There were rockets, the Stinger missiles.
Yeah, caltraps that he dropped out and did the tires, didn't he?
Yep. Self-inflating tires.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it had the rocket launcher, the missiles coming out of the sunroof.
Stingers, that's right.
It had electrocution bodywork because they're trying to bang it with a hammer, with sledgehammers, weren't they?
We had
bulletproof windows.
It was bulletproof
cable
windows.
cutter.
Oh
yeah, that came out of the BMW,
out of the BMW
logo.
badge. Yeah,
at exactly the right level that the wire is in front of them.
Very convenient,
obviously.
Isn't it?
It had gas emission wheel arches because they got close to it and it went.
Yeah. And it was electrical. It electrocuted you, like the security system electrocuted you as well, didn't it?
Yeah. Well, at the time, right, they made a big thing about having a GPS tracking system because in those days, no cars had those. So it had that as well.
Oh, yeah.
And it had machine guns as well, forward-firing machine guns.
Yes.
And an English-speaking, albeit German accent, computer voice that regularly reminds absent-minded spies to fasten their safety belts.
Have we missed anything, Bobby?
I don't think so.
All right, I think we got there in the end.
Yeah. Now, talking about this car, I know there are other things that we can talk about in this movie, like, you know, the ship with the drill thing and all the rest of it, but so what? Because this car was the most memorable thing. And that chase sequence is one of my favorite of all time. Not just because it takes place in a car park that I'm in pretty much every single day, because that's where my Waitrose is, in Brent Cross, right here in Brent Cross. I at the time had a Fiesta 1.4 Gear X, and I would go to HMV in Brent Cross, and I would charge around that car park with the Tomorrow Never Dies soundtrack blaring it out, literally swinging that little thing around like I was in a Bond movie. And that brings me on to the music for this film. David Arnold, genius.
Was
John
this his
Barry,
first film?
His first Bond.
Yeah.
They wanted John Barry to come back, but John Barry couldn't. I can't remember what his commitments were, but he recommended David Arnold. David Arnold, I think it was the year before, had released an album called Shaken and Stirred.
Shaken and Stirred.
Do you remember it?
I had it.
Yeah, he had different artists.
Yeah,
and he reimagined all of the Bond songs. And John Barry recommended him to the producers off the back of hearing his work on putting that album together. On this film, he also worked with the propeller heads for Backseat Driver, which is the section of music for the car chase scene. Right. And for me, this is note for note one of, if not the best score to any Bond movie ever. I know pretty much every freaking note of this soundtrack, and that Backseat Driver is my favorite section of music from any Bond film outside of the original Monty Norman theme. It is brilliant. The thing with David Arnold, he came into this as a Bond fan, and where most composers get the rough edit of the film to compose to about 2 weeks before the film comes out, and so they do it in a rush. David Arnold went in saying, you know, he needed to be respectful to what had gone on before, but he also needed to put a little modern twist on things. But also, he wanted to be mindful that there are elements in the Bond film and elements to the music that, as a fan, you kind of expect to happen in certain places. And if it doesn't, you're disappointed. So if you remember in previous reviews that we've done of previous films, where I've been so disappointed when
there
Bond
was a
theme...
more film, Bobby, wasn't there? That was all like twangy, funky guitar, and we all hated it. Which one was it? Was it Live and Let Die?
It was, Live and Let Die. Where
it was.
When
New
when
Orleans,
I said,
wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was where the car does the jump, and it's, again, at the time, like one of the greatest stunts in movie history up to that point. And they did that instead of... The Bond theme is what should have played there as he makes his escape. So David Arnold was really, really conscious of this. He took 6 months to score this film. He got them sending any footage that he could get his hands on as early as possible. And you can tell when you watch this film, and particularly if you watch that car chase again, listening with what I'm telling you in mind, and you can tell how passionate I am about this. I know every single note of that section of music, that 4.5 minutes or whatever. You can tell that this soundtrack has been scored to the movie, to what is going on screen.
It's almost like, Bobby, it's almost like when I went and saw The Empire Strikes Back at the Albert Theatre played live, and they had the conductor had an iPad with him, and the iPad had the sheet music, but it had a special graphic that went across it so that they could match the music to scenes in the film. It's almost like David Arnold had that live when he was scoring it to exactly as to the beat and to the scenes, and that's devotion to a cause, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you listen back to that passage of music, you literally can see what's going on screen in your mind. Like, you know what is going on at that bit where he holds the music when they launch the rocket at him and he ducks and the rocket goes through the car, explodes the cars behind, and then he carries on. and then you get that little hint of the James Bond theme as the tires he spikes the tires and then go back up, and then it kicks in with the guitars just as he breaks the cable,
and you get the goosebumps on the back of your neck.
Oh, you do. It's just, and you punch the air, and it's like yes, and that. So, oh my god!
On the Shaken and Stirred album, because there's one of the tracks I listen to regularly still, because I like a lot of LTJ Buchan, because he's kind of old 90s liquid drum and bass, and he did the James Bond theme, like a sort of slightly chill drum and bass version. But some of these collaborations that Dave Arnold did on the Shaken and Stirred track, like Left Field and Space March, Chrissie Hynde did Live and Let Die, Pulp did All Time High, and then you've got Iggy Pop doing We Have All the Time in the World. If you haven't listened to that album, go back and listen to it. It's brilliant. It's really good.
Yeah.
David Arnold made Bond cool again, basically.
Oh, he absolutely did. But I mean, you listen, I hope you guys can hear that down the thing.
I think your condenser's drowning it out, I'm afraid, Bobby. Is
that any better?
No.
I'm going to cut it into the edit.
You've got the magic of Zoom cancelling it out.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is it like that's a copyright thing?
No, it's just trying to help. Like if there's music in the background, that's all.
Yeah, it's the way he holds it. It's like how
many?
It's like, oh my god, it's so good.
How
like
many
this
films?
I'd want to watch with the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra live.
Yeah, that would be good.
He did. So he did this one. He did The World Is Not Enough. Did he do Die Another Day? I had so much contempt for that film at the time. Let's have a look.
This was his first, wasn't it?
He did Quantum of Solace.
Okay.
He did Quantum of Solace. He did Hot Fuzz. He did Casino Royale. He did Casino Royale. He did Die Another Day.
We did.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did The Musketeer. He did the soundtrack to the new Shaft film in the 2000. He did The World Is Not Enough. He did the soundtrack to a film I watched this week, which is the original 2014. Was it? Oh, I might be wrong. The 1998 Roland Emmerich Godzilla soundtrack with Dave Arnold as well, with Matthew Broderick. He did Independence Day. He did the Stargate film as well. He's done some amazing films.
Yeah.
And I'm
just looking at his filmography here. I didn't realize.
Yeah.
Wow.
A really good track with Björk as well that I love as well, which sounds like a Bond track, which is why I like it so much. If Björk did a Bond track, he did it. She did one with David Arnold. It was really good. Okay, yeah, you have to find somewhere getting clearance and playing the soundtrack over that sequence where you try to play your phone, Bobby. That's what you need to do.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. No, I will. And then Sheryl Crow. I was such a massive fan of Sheryl Crow. I've got pretty much all of her albums. Tuesday Night Music Club is one of my favorite albums ever. Country albums, anyway. And she took a lot of flack, although her song was actually nominated for a Golden Globe, I think. But it lost to that bloody Celine Dion thing from bloody Titanic. What's happened to John? He's disappeared now. He keeps vanishing. He keeps blipping in and out of the Matrix.
I'm just topping up on the old Glenfiddich. Sorry.
Oh my god! I'll call it.
I have to say, my wife Becca loved the Sheryl Crow track because she's a big Sheryl Crow fan. She liked it. I have to be honest. It's fine. Nothing wrong with it. It's accomplished, but it did nothing for me. It's not. It's not one of the most memorable Bond tracks of them all.
It's not.
There's nothing wrong with it. It's not offensive. It's not problematic at all. Just to me, it's just fine, and it doesn't sit in my memory at all.
You got two main songs for this film because originally, because David Arnold wrote "Surrender," which was sung by K.D. Lang, and that's used at the end of the film over the end credit. Surrender's actually, if you listen to the lyrics, I'm pretty sure it's written from the point of view of Elliot Carver, from the villain. And Sheryl Crow's song is written from the point of view I like to think of Paris Carver, because she's singing about Bond. They'd asked a whole host of artists, including Pulp. Pulp actually have a song called Tomorrow Never Lies, which was the song they originally recorded for this and wasn't used in the end. And I think that was used on a B-side for one of their big hits, and it also appears on one of their famous albums. Obviously not a massive Pulp fan, as you can tell. And then
I met Jarvis once, actually.
I met him in HMV on Oxford Street.
Well, I lived in Nethersedge in Sheffield, and I lived above the off license. He used to go to get his mother's bottle of gin each week. So I was downstairs in the off license, and he was buying gin for his mother, and I chatted to him for a bit.
Oh.
Nice chap. Yeah. He owns a pub. He owns a pub around the corner in Sheffield. At the time, he owned a pub. Mm-hmm. The whole band Pulp owned and ran a pub in Sheffield, but it was a bit stabby, so they sold it.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so there you go. You got the whole of Pulp owning a pub. Then you've got Blur making cheese, and gorillas. There's something there. I don't know where I'm going with that. Job. This wine's really strong. It's a 2009 Magister, which I've had this bottle for a long, long time, and I've been saving it for a special occasion. And I think it's something's happened to it as it's been maturing there the last 14 years. Anyway,
is it making you a bit giddy? Is it, Bobby?
It is making me giddy. So, but again, I'm just talking about the soundtracks just made me giddy. I love this score so much, guys. It's awesome. I want to hear it with a live orchestra.
Yeah, that'd be good. Can I wake you up with some more tech that we forgot?
Oh, okay, yeah, fine.
Because there was quite a bit, and the other thing I forgot was that there was a lockpick in the phone.
Mm-hmm.
There was also a fingerprint scanner in the phone, which he then turned the phone around, and then that got him in, which is not how fingerprint scanners work.
He scanned a fingerprint on. So
he scanned a fingerprint residue off of the actual scanner, and then turned it around to show the lock that. Oh no, it's definitely me.
Wouldn't he just be shining the light of the fingerprint through the real fingerprint through the scanner? Wouldn't the lock then open automatically every time because it's got the fingerprint already stuck to it? They just you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's optical, so it doesn't work that way. But you could have just put something that on top of it, and it should have worked. Yeah. Anyway, that wasn't the bit that excited me. There was the bit where he had the GPS. GPS sort of, I can't remember what it calls, like the keys for the GPS.
Yeah,
that skews everything off.
The satellite thing.
That's right.
The thing that skews the satellite.
That's it.
The GPS bread box thing.
Yeah, exactly.
What about? Never mind that. What about all of Wei Lin's gadgets in her little secret?
This is my point. A lot of the gadgets are actually all in China.
Yeah,
they're all Chinese made, including the Chinese-made water PPK, which I thought was quite interesting. And then there was throwing stars. There was a whole load of stuff. The dragon. There was earrings that were lockpicks. There was loads of stuff.
Can I just point out an error that really wound me up? If you're worried about the fingerprint scanner, so right near the beginning at the Arms Bazaar up in the mountains, when Bond's saving the day with removing the plane with the nuke in it. So they had the was it the British Army? Was it American? Someone was shooting a nuke at the bazaar to kill all the arms dealers in one go.
Yeah, it was the Brits.
Oh, right.
The Brits. And for some reason, their missile went wrong and they couldn't abort it. They couldn't press the abort button, wouldn't work. And they were saying there's an error, a transmission error. Okay, so they couldn't send the radio frequency from the button to the missile. However, they could still stream video from the camera on the front of the missile back to in 1997. They can't transmit radio through a single button for a single pulse, but they could transmit video back to show you it, flying through the valleys towards Bond. And that really bugged me because you could just send a signal through the video transmission.
How did they do that back then? Because it's like I'm on a Zoom call with you with 500 gigabit broadband, but when I lose your video, but I can still hear your voice.
Yes.
And you can still text me. But back then it was the other way round.
Yeah.
They had so much bandwidth for video, but absolutely nothing for a simple signal just to stop a missile from doing whatever it was doing. It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
There you go.
They also
Mad.
encoded a lot. So back in the day, they would have encoded for loss. So they would have had a lot of like extra bits that basically mean that if they didn't get through, it wouldn't. Well, it's not just space, but like lots of error correction and like so that way, if you didn't get everything, you'd be able to work it out based on a bit of maths. It's like error checks. But the thing is nowadays everything's packet based. So basically everything gets sent, and if you lose a packet, then you just go and ask for the packet again, which is something that you wouldn't do in this case. But anyway, so
can we talk about the CGI nudie ladies at the beginning as well?
Ooh,
with the printed circuit boards on their bodies.
Yeah, sure. That was really cool.
Yeah, that's true.
That was cool. I mean, for 1997, that was like Lawnmower Man quality graphics, wasn't it? It was amazing.
I know. No. I saw Lawnmower Man the other night because it was on TV, and it is so shit. It's such a crap movie.
No, but you know what I mean, though.
The SFX in that film are fucking awful.
Had they borrowed your computers for that film too?
I had nothing to do with that shit. Lawnmower Man. I was still not even doing my GCSEs when that came out. Shut up.
Max Headroom, wasn't it? Max Headroom.
Very.
Yeah.
Very Max Headroom. Anyway, so there we go. I've refreshed you from your music funk that you had.
I can go back into music funk.
Let's talk about the drill torpedo, because I thought that was hilarious. I thought that was very video gamey, like Bullet Bill from Mario Kart. This torpedo they shoot out, and somehow it can make enough purchase on the side of a ship to drill a hole in, right? And then it can kind of wander around like a platformer through all the corridors. Let's go in that room. Oh,
with the joystick,
come in, they're being washed away. Let's go in that room. They're being washed away too. Let's go in that room.
Little joystick.
Pick up a missile, off we go.
Just for our younger listeners, John referring to this drill making purchase on the side of a ship. It wasn't buying anything in the ship gift shop. It was clamping onto it. That's what he means. It's an old-fashioned word from back in the Middle Ages where John comes from. Okay.
The torpedo was able to alight near the ship.
That's it.
Even Carolina said, actually, she said that's a bit much, isn't it? The fact that he can control it and literally, worms or whatever.
Do a right angle. Yeah.
Is it a 2D game? Is it a 2.5D? Is it a 3D game? You know,
who noticed a very young blink and you'll miss it cameo from it? Yeah, I was straight away. I was like, is that a young Gerard Butler?
I shouted out, "This is Sparta!" when he came on the screen.
Sparta. We drink iron brew.
So Bobby and John are drinking. Alex is not. Can you see the difference here, folks?
Yeah. Sorry, guys.
Oh, hold on, Alex.
Hang on. What are you drinking?
He's got a Guinness.
Diet Coke.
Oh,
you should have just said Guinness. We wouldn't have been able to tell. Okay, cool.
No.
Is there anything else either of you would like to specifically mention or talk about this movie before we move on to ratings?
Mr. Stamper.
Go on. Yeah.
Mr. Stamper.
Well, I think there's three people I want to talk about. Mr. Stamper, Gupta, and obviously, come on, guys, Dr. Kaufman. How can you
they're
not
all
talk
assholes.
about Dr.
He was funny, though, Dr. Kaufman.
He was hilarious. Now, I recognised him straight away, but I couldn't figure out what film I'd seen him in. I think it might have been Total Recall. Was it Total Recall?
No. Last Action Hero.
That's it. Last Action Hero. That's it. He's a really interesting guy because the whole scene in the hotel room with Dr. Kaufman, I felt like he was going to be like Sir Ben Kingsley in Shang-Chi. I thought he was an actor sitting in, like, 'cause he had had his speech being fed into his headphones from Carver or Stamper or someone like that. I really thought he was an actor. He wasn't really an assassin. He was an assassin. He was just a bit shit. But he was hilarious. I love that scene. Yeah. And Bond's just toying with him, isn't he? Completely.
Yeah.
There's a lot of scenes of Bond in hotels in this film.
Yeah. Oh, well, shall we? That brings us neatly. Nice segue, John, to the shagometer, which John's been desperate to enlighten us with. Right, John,
Well,
what did you find out? We're over
one of
to
them,
our intrepid sex reporter, John Evans.
the shagometer. I think you're gonna have to help me here, chaps, and see if you agree with me. So
I think there was only two.
I gave it a Bond shag count of 3. Now here's my rationale. There's the Danish lady, the cunning linguist. There's obviously Paris.
Yep.
Her last ever, unfortunately. And I'm pretty sure at the end that he did the dirty with Wei Lin as well.
Yeah, but it doesn't kind of count because they could have just been kissing. You see, like realistically, would you, after going through all that, would you really, you'd want to get on that ship and get a hot shower? Come on.
Yes, but hold on. Can I just bring you back to that one particular scene in the film, one of the hottest scenes in the film, where they're in Vietnam and Bond,
in the shower.
Oh my god!
My wife found it hilarious.
Hardcore porn in a Bond film. It was amazing.
No, but then she handcuffs him to the thing.
Yes, I know, but then there's handcuffs. I mean, for goodness sake, how more obvious can you get?
Yeah, you can tell John's getting older and he's been married a long time because the littlest things. Yes, John. I think 2. Alex?
You think 2? 2.5?
I would give it 2. I would at least give it 2.5. I think.
No, what's a half? Either you shag or you don't.
I'm just googling it now. Did Bond shag Wei Lin? Hold on.
You didn't snog. You didn't snog
yourselves.
You didn't snog some girl at school, and then someone goes, "Oh, did you get off with her?" And you'd be like, "No, I sort of half did."
Oh yeah, but you didn't wait for the qualified yes when you're at school. You just bragged about anything, didn't you?
This is true.
The
American Pie? The American Pie thing when Natasha Lyonne says to what's her face? You know what? Anything a guy tells you, just divide it by 3.
So I'm on the Time to Bond .blog where it's going through all the different flagranti delictos between Bond and the respective ladies, and it says Wei Lin. So it says sex at the very end of the movie, floating on what looks like some debris in the middle of the South China Sea. They're both soaking wet. How James didn't make a sexual comment about that, I will never know. How did this relationship with Lin end? The 2 of them lasted about a month. Too many snide remarks about capitalism and communism. There you go. So I think
you'd have to go to the novelization because that would probably expand a bit further.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. There we go. So that was our shagometer. Thank you, John. John will be back next month with more bonks and whatever. Oh, there's some good ones in the next film. Yeah. Sophie Marceau and Denise, what's her face? Ratings and conclusions. Alex, what would you give Tomorrow Never Dies out of 10? Now, John and I, before you got here, and then John disappeared, and then you got here, and then John came back, and then disappeared again, and all of that, we were saying that there is the potential for a bit of a shock here, and we've had some shocks previously, Moonraker, for example. But out of 10, go.
So I am going to shock you, but not in the way you think. And not from the phone, that's for sure.
Damn it.
I'm going to rate it a 6.
Ooh. Okay.
Why?
I think
rationale.
I think the plot, while it ticked all the boxes, didn't excite me in the slightest. I didn't think about any of the possibilities. I didn't, and maybe it's just that now it harks differently than it did at the
normal
time.
Now the plot is just normal modern news now. Is that what you're saying?
So, but for me, it switched me off. And I do think it's the plot and the fact that the chemistry between Bond and Terry Hatcher was so poor. It really did switch me off. I really enjoyed Michelle Yeoh. I really enjoyed the bits they ticked. The tech was like just that age, so I didn't really worry about it. But I do find like the Bond films that talk about tech more switch me off more, because when I start listening to all the techno babble, I'm just thinking, you're just talking rubbish. So I'm going to give it a 6. I just don't have a desire to watch it again. That's it.
Okay, that's fine. It's a free world, or is it? John?
I'm going to give it a solid 8.
Mm-hmm.
I liked it a lot. It lost a point because of I didn't like Jonathan Pryce's character. No, I'll rephrase that. I didn't like the way Jonathan Pryce portrayed him. He was just a bit. I think he was chewing the scenery too much in this film. And I'm giving it losing a point because I just don't think the Sheryl Crow song was. It didn't do it for me, but everything else was excellent.
So when the credits started rolling, I turned around to Carolina and I said, "How was that for you?" I just realised how that sounded. Very, very Roger Moore, isn't it? And she really enjoyed it. She thought it was a really great movie, and I think for us again, it's a sign of a good film for me personally is one where I'm not doing other things while the film is on. And getting distracted because I'm very easily distracted. I have seen this film when I was younger. I'd seen this film so many times. I had it on DVD. I love the soundtrack so much. So having kind of just had a few days since we saw it to just calm down, my rating is an 8.5. And it's probably largely because of the soundtrack. I went on various streaming services, and Tomorrow Never Dies, the actual original soundtrack is not licensed on any streaming services. And I was so desperate to listen to it. I've got it on CD. It's packed away in storage somewhere. I need to dig it out, but I was so desperate to listen to it again, especially as I've got the Supra, which, as we know, BMW parts. The design of the new Supra is inspired by the GT2000 from You Only Live Twice, etc., etc. 2000 GT, sorry. I paid $8.99 on iTunes to download the bloody thing, and I'm glad that I did. That soundtrack is just gold for me, and the film itself, for me, is rewatchable. Like anytime it's on, I'll leave the channel there and I'll watch it. That car chase scene in Brent Cross car park, very, very dear to my heart. But also forget about the fact it was filmed just up the road. I still think it's one of the most enjoyable action car gadget laden set pieces, with the music as well, with Brosnan's reactions, like when he does things with the car and he's just so pleased with himself or pleased with the car. Just the whole thing, it's just sheer joy. So it is
crashes the car into the rental store at the end as well.
And the way he does it, where he with his hands as he does the final flick off the phone, and then brilliant, just absolutely brilliant. I might actually change this to a 9. But that's the thing, right? So big shock with Moonraker, because all three of us love that film. When previously leading up to it, we were like, it's going to be a bit shit. We're not looking forward to this one. We just need to get it out of the way. But it surprised us because we loved it. It was
Kung Fu as well.
Yeah, this one had Kung Fu. I mean,
Kung
Alex,
Fu
you
as
could
well.
at least raise it to a 7 for that.
Come on.
No,
I'm not going to.
He's got a shuriken to the throat in his film.
Yeah, I know, but I can't.
There's a snog on a raft. Come on, Alex.
Yeah, there's some cunning linguistics. There we go. Look, we're all entitled to our opinions. We all react to things differently. That's the whole beauty of this. It would have been interesting to find out what Rich, Mark, and Phil thought, and I'll try and get there. Well, maybe they'll join us for the next one, but I'll at least try and collate their ratings. But guys, thank you so much. Pleasure as always. It's been a nice little intimate podcast this evening. Song springs to mind. Just the three of us reviewing Tomorrow Never Dies. Just the three of us. You and I and Alex and John and
I.
Me. It doesn't and I. Yeah. Anyway, my singing is terrible. Totally tone deaf. Thank you both. we will be back, won't we, to review The World Is Not Enough.
We will.
And really looking forward to that. Thank you all so much once again for joining us. Remember, for regular show updates, you can join us on Instagram at Tailoring Talk Podcast, and you can support the show at the link in the show notes. You can also help massively by reviewing us and giving a rating. That's how the algorithms work. It helps us to get served to more people. And if you enjoyed spending time with John and Alex, please do check out our podcast Play Paul's Turn. We do need to get together because it's been a little while.
Yeah. We've got quite a lot to update on the Marvels. We've got Loki to talk about. So we've got lots coming up. We just have to get it sorted. So
exactly, John and I. I'm hoping to be able to see John in later this month. Actually, December. We're recording this to see Fury Osa in IMAX. Which is the prequel to Mad Max Fury Road, I think. Charlize Theron's character, the focus there, played by Anya Taylor-Joy. I'll pretty much watch anything with her in, so there we go. Both her and Charlize Theron, actually. I better sign off because wifey's coming and I'm about to get murdered. We will return to review The World Is Not Enough. Until then, take care, and we'll see you on the next 007 episode of Tailoring Talk. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
That was a bit quicker that time. Thank you. I think Phil and Mark being around does make a difference to the lag. Anyway, bye. Thank you, guys. You've been wonderful.